oh boy, Graveyard Keeper, and it's just like Stardew Valley. Let's call it Gravedew Valley Corpse Dew Keeper? Almost like Stardew, except I can throw dead bodies in the river. So there's that. Can you believe it? I'm finally on YouTube. I've been putting this off for it's been way more than a month. I've been going live on Twitch for over 2 years now, and I've always wanted to have a YouTube component to content. And I've been overthinking it. I'm like, I don't know how to edit. Like, the videos aren't going to be good. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, we're done. We're done with that now. We're just going to go for it. So the folks at Tiny Build and Lazy Bear Games were kind enough to provide alpha access to Graveyard Keeper. It's a really, really great game, and I'm so impressed with where it is in alpha so far. Keep in mind, this is a preview, not a review, because the game is so early in development. This is going to go to full release on August 15th. Even in alpha state, I've gotten 6 to 8 hours of gameplay. I have friends that have gotten much, much more gameplay out of the alpha. There's a ton of content in it. I've been super impressed with it so far. Let's take a look at the gameplay. Alrighty, let's get into Graveyard Keeper a little bit. So you've probably noticed we're not playing from a totally fresh save file. I loaded up one that I had been messing around with on stream a little bit because I wanted to show you some of the deeper stuff that you can do in the game. Before we get to any of that stuff though, first things first, everybody's comparing this game to Stardew Valley. Even the publisher, I think, tweeted something about it being Stardew-like, and yeah, it's top-down, and yeah, at the skin level, like, maybe some of the basic mechanics and I don't know, that it's pixel art or whatever makes it feel like Stardew Valley, but I want to get away from that because I think this game has tons to offer on its own. If you like Stardew Valley, you know, you'll probably like this. If you're a Stardew Valley hardcore person, though, you're going to be like, this isn't Stardew, I freaking hate it, whoa! So I encourage you to look at this game in its own. First of all, story. There is a little bit of story to the game. I can't tell if it's alpha, and so there's not much of it, or if it's just meant to be light in the first place, but it's fine. Your character is coming home for the day and is playing with their cell phone, texting their lover as they cross the street, and gets hit by a car and wakes up, and wham bam, you're a graveyard keeper in a medieval village. Who knew? The game doesn't make much of an effort to teach you what you're doing, but that's part of the story as well, right? Because your character kind of wakes up in this area and doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing, and so that sort of plays in with the lore. It'll be a lot of trial and error to figure out what you're supposed to do, which is totally cool. So there's a little bit of story. The next thing is the artwork. I love the way this game looks for sort of top-down indie pixel-y graphic looking things. Technical term, help. I think it looks awesome. The animations that are there in the environment are subtle but very nice. And, you know, characters look good, environments look good. It feels right. It just feels right. So there's a lot of work that was put into the artwork here. I guess we should talk about what you actually do in this game. So your character is the local graveyard keeper, and graveyard keeping is a component of the game. You have a talking donkey companion who will occasionally drop off dead corpses that you can slice up and perform autopsies on and bury in the graveyard, which you can then decorate. There's also a big progression system that we're going to talk about later in the video that involves a lot of forging and resource gathering and crafting different things and building different sort of crafting benches and recipes and that kind of thing. Once you advance so far in that, you open up a church where you can actually decorate and up the value of a church, perform sermons, which gets you different blessings and also gains you some favor with townsfolk. Outside of the sort of work, labor, and toil aspects of the game, there's also a relationship system with the townsfolk. It's not romance-based like Stardew Valley is. It's sort of just likability, where interacting with certain vendors, buying things from them, or performing sort of little quests for different NPCs will up their favor with you, which allows you to unlock different dialogue options, different story options, more quests. If they're a vendor, they'll sell you sort of tier 2 and tier 3 items at some point in time. So there is a relationship dynamic to the game too. Oh, and yeah, one more comment on the game's core mechanics. So if you were a fan of the Harvest Moon series or Stardew Valley, you're kind of used to a day and night cycle. You're going to notice the day and night cycle kind of go by and it doesn't impact the player at all. So all of the work that you do in this game is sort of limited by an energy meter that you have, which is the blue bar in the top left. But the day and night cycle doesn't impact you. You can stay out and explore as much as you want to. And the game doesn't penalize you for doing this, which I really, really loved. In the sort of Harvest Moon or Stardew series, I always felt like I was fighting the clock constantly, and that if I just wanted to roam around the map, I was losing valuable time, because if I ran out of day, I'd have to go to bed, and it was just an issue. So I really liked how they changed that mechanic for Graveyard Keeper. Speaking of the map, there are so many areas to explore. I'm only going to show you a few of the main ones, and honestly, after 6 to 8 hours of gameplay with this, which is in alpha, remember, it's just an alpha build, I still haven't explored the entire map. You know, some of the more obvious areas that you spend a lot of time in, you've got your house, you've got the yard outside of it. You also have this kind of garden where you can plant things in it. I haven't done a lot of that. I've done some vegetables. I guess there's also a morgue, and sort of the basement of all the buildings are connected through the morgue, where you can chop up and dissect bodies. And then, you know, of course, we can't forget about the graveyard. Duh. What's a graveyard keeper without a graveyard? What you do in the graveyard, you can bury bodies there, you can decorate graves, change out headstones, that sort of thing. And then inside of the graveyard is your church, where you can perform sermons and convert the villagers into some terrible religion, I hope. You perform sermons and they give you money, you know, the way that real churches work. Same idea. So those are kind of the main areas that are near your house, but outside of that, you also have a huge village to explore, with tons of NPCs in it. Some of them are also vendors. Some of them just sort of give you quests. But all around the village, there's a wilderness, there's swampland, there are a bunch of different areas that you don't have access to right away. Like, this is the village, but south of that, there's something called the town that I don't even think we can get into in the alpha right now. There's this really, really cool beach and sort of lighthouse area that I really, really liked a lot, and I thought was super duper beautiful. So again, like, I still haven't explored everything in this game. This is something that I feel like where this game actually has an edge on Stardew in a lot of ways. I feel very contained in the Stardew map. At least with Graveyard Keeper, you know, I feel like I can explore a ton without really losing anything. And this is kind of part of the game's mechanic too, where the day and night cycle doesn't impede you. You can stay out all night, you can stay out all day. It doesn't really matter that much, so you don't feel like you're losing anything by exploring the map. The map also has this really nice dynamic where it feeds into the game's progression system really, really well. It's definitely not the first game to do it. Plenty of games have done this, but I really appreciate it, where you know, you have examples like a bridge that's out that you need to repair, and so if you want to, you can aspire to repair or clear out all of the things that sort of block your progress in this game right away. So the map is just another form of progression. Which brings me to the progression systems in this game, which I think are just really, really, really well done. And there are a wide variety of different things that you can progress on as you want to. So let's get into the progression system. What indie game would be complete without a completely addictive progression system? So in addition to the map progress, where you can kind of focus on repairing this bridge that's in front of us, or clearing out different paths that are blocked, there's also this huge sort of tech tree thing that you have with a bunch of different categories on it. So there's sort of smithing and building. There are different categories for doing stuff with nature or kind of understanding the spiritual world. All of these little components of the tech tree are unlocked by doing other things in the game. So laboring, planting things, forging various items, or exploring the spiritual world. By doing creepy things in your church basement. All of that stuff is important through the tech tree, but what's great is that you're not really restricted on what you can work on. There's so much that you can do. You can work on smithing, you can work on repairing bridges, you can work on building out your church, you can work on improving your graveyard. Whatever you feel like doing, you can go do it. And I love the variety in the progression system in this game, and it's super freaking addictive. Outside of that, you can also work on your relationships with villagers. There's a nice long list of all of the NPCs that you've met, and each of them have sort of little subquests underneath them if you've happened to get a quest from them. Or you can work on progressing your relationship with villagers by collecting quests from ones that you haven't collected quests from before. Anytime you log in, you can pick from, 6, 7 different things to work on. And again, this is just alpha. There are things in the game that I know exist that I've kind of strolled by that I haven't had a chance to dig into yet. So really, really, really addictive and awesome progression system. All right, that's it for our Graveyard Keeper Alpha preview. This game has so much more to offer than I've showed you, and this video is already a little bit out of date because the developer is pushing updates for this thing on a weekly basis. New content and bug fixes are coming out constantly. This game is going to be worth your time. It's already got a ton of content, and they're only adding more to it. Add this thing to your wish list. There's a Steam store page down below so you can do that. This game is set to come out on August 15th on all major consoles and PC. I think it's going to be an indie must-have for this year. If you want to see more content on Graveyard Keeper, I'm going to post my friend Graphics G's channel down below as well. He's been doing a bunch of in-depth tutorials, and he has way more play hours into the game than I do, so check him out. Thanks everybody for watching. Love where you are. Love what you do. I'll see you next time. Blah, 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 blah.